As we all know, running backs are always necessary in fantasy football, and we want to get either the top guys or great values in our fantasy football drafts. So we need to discuss the worst running back picks round by round in your 2023 fantasy football drafts so you know who you can avoid. But really quick before we dive into this, guys, I've got a really big announcement for you. We've got our FFN special hats here that we are going to be sending out to one of you guys. All you need to do is go ahead down in the comments, make sure to give me your best fantasy football hot take. I want the hottest take you've got all season, and I will randomly pick whoever wins the hat. Definitely want to show you guys my appreciation for helping me continue to grow. So please make sure to go down there, smash the like button, and hit that subscribe button as well. But let's dive right into it. Number one, in the first round, it is Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans. I need to be clear about this one right off the top. I do not dislike everybody on this list. There are a lot of guys that I actually like, and Derrick Henry is the perfect example on this list. Where he's going right now is at the 1-2 turn in ESPN fantasy football drafts right now. Now, if he was going late round 2, mid round 2 even, or early round 3, I would be so much more interested in picking Derrick Henry at that price. But the reality here is that if you're looking for a running back, maybe you just want to punt on getting Derrick Henry and taking Stephon Diggs, who is going behind Derrick Henry. There's also Tony Pollard going behind Derrick Henry. At this point, Tony Pollard is a really, really good fantasy football running back pick. And Nick Chubb, of course, is always a very solid pick as well. Now, Derrick Henry, of course, is a fantastic fantasy football back, but it is definitely fair for us to worry about his particular situation at this point in his career. He's entering his age 29 season on the Tennessee Titans. Maybe we'll have the worst offense of his entire career in Tennessee, and his efficiency, when you look at it year by year, it's actually dropped since that foot injury that he suffered a couple years ago. And when you look at last year, actually, he got the most targets he's ever gotten in any of his previous seasons. That's not going to happen again because last year they didn't have a true number one wide receiver. This year they have one. DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks will definitely be plenty active. Obviously, I still think he's good. If he drops down to the second round and a couple picks after that, I definitely like taking Derrick Henry, but he is definitely the worst, in my opinion, in this first round. Now, moving on to round 2, I've got Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders right here. Now, this one, we need to put a huge asterisk on this one. So first off, it was actually really hard for me to choose which guy I was going to pick in this particular round. If you look on the screen, you could see a lot of good running backs in round 2. Honestly, if Josh Jacobs was practicing right now and with the team, Joe Mixon would have been the pick instead. Joe Mixon also a very good running back in fantasy football. But this Josh Jacobs situation, it's getting a little bit weird at this point to me, to be honest with you. A couple of weeks ago, we had reports come out that they were reopening contract negotiations with Josh Jacobs. That went on for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden, it went completely silent again. There's been no news lately of when Josh Jacobs returns or if he does. Personally, I still can't envision where he doesn't play. I just think that's a very bad move for running backs to make, especially in the prime of their career. Look at what Le'Veon Bell did in 2017 and how that turned out for him. This one's just a little bit uneasy to me, but when he does come back, he's definitely not going to be the worst. Moving on to round 3, I've got Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers right here. Now, I've battled with Aaron Jones all offseason, to be honest with you. I've gone back and forth on thinking he's a good pick and then not thinking he's that great of a pick as I originally thought. The things that I like about his situation, the great offensive line that he's got. He's got a top 10 offensive line yet again in Green Bay, and Green Bay always consistently has a very good offensive line blocking for him. And when you look at his efficiency, it really hasn't dropped on a yearly basis. Aaron Jones is still very, very efficient. 5.3 yards per carry last year, that's really, really good. But the problem here is that this offense is going to take a big step back. There's no question. Going from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love is simply just not going to be a good thing. And based on what we have seen in the preseason so far, this team looks like they just want Jordan Love to kind of be a game manager a little bit. They're not letting him take that many shots. And out of all the years that he's been in the NFL, we've heard nothing about any kind of special qualities. We've never seen any kind of special qualities from practice, from real games, anything like that. Now, to be clear, a game manager could easily be very good for dump-offs, specifically for Aaron Jones. But what I will say about this, there was only one bottom 7 team in the NFL last year that had a top 15 fantasy football running back. The data just does not lie here with bad teams. Now, to be clear, Green Bay may not be a bottom 7 team. They're still a well-run organization. But out of all the running backs in this range, it's honestly a very clear choice to me. Now, moving on to round 4, this one actually makes me pretty sad, but I've got Damien Pierce in round 4 of the Houston Texans. This one may come as a shock to you. If you've been following this channel for all offseason, you'll know that I've been pounding the table for people to take Damien Pierce in underdog specifically. His underdog price has and is still a great value. You're getting him in the 6th to 7th round, which if you want to get in on that Damien Pierce price, use code FFN and click on the link in the description below to go sign up for underdog and get that 100% deposit match. But the reality here is that he's in the same range as Ramondre Stevenson and Jahmyr Gibbs. Ramondre Stevenson, Zeke has not scared me. Ramondre keeps falling. I will continue to keep taking Ramondre, and I absolutely advise you to do the same. And just from a ceiling perspective with Jahmyr Gibbs, who is specifically who I wrestled with originally here, just from the ceiling perspective, Gibbs definitely has more talent than Damien Pierce at this point. And Houston is likely going to be a bottom 7 to 10 team in the NFL this year. Now, I still love Damien Pierce. Absolutely still love Damien Pierce. Like I said, especially at that underdog price. But that ESPN price to me, it's honestly just simply way too high. Moving on to round 5, we've got Rashad White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. Now, if you look on ESPN on the screen, there's a lot of running backs here in this round 5 range. And honestly, when I was looking at the running backs, I was tempted to go with James Conner right out of the gate. I mean, both of these guys are going to be on terrible teams this year, and they're really both in terrible situations. I honestly think that Tampa Bay is just going to bomb in 2023. I'm simply just not buying the Baker Mayfield hype. And preseason's one thing, guys, but if you can't complete more than 63% of your throws, that's when you see a guy get bounced around the league as much as Baker Mayfield has. Now, Arizona is absolutely going to be awful this year too. There's no question that Arizona is going to be a terrible team in 2023. So since they're both going to be really bad, we need to identify the difference here and why I inevitably chose Rashad White as this guy right here. So when you look at both of their player profilers, they're both good pass catching backs, so neither one of them has the leg up on the other in the pass catching department. But Arizona made moves to their offensive line in 2023 by drafting Paris Campbell, offensive guard out of Ohio State, in the top 10 of this year's draft. This is going to make a difference, and that's why Arizona's offensive line is at number 25 entering this year, and Tampa Bay's is at 27. When you look at efficiency-wise, this one really isn't even close. Rashad White, 3.7 yards per carry in 2022. James Conner, 4.3 yards per carry. They had a worse offensive line last year than Tampa Bay did. Honestly, I've been off Rashad White all offseason long, and really all Buccaneers players this offseason. The only one I would consider taking in the future is going to be Mike Evans, but really, Rashad White, there's no way I'm taking Rashad White. Now, moving on to round 6, guy, I've got Cam Akers of the Los Angeles Rams right here. Now, here's the thing. I have been off Cam Akers really since the Achilles tear a couple of seasons ago. I am just not really the biggest Cam Akers guy. I acknowledge the talent. The talent is absolutely there. But his situation has been way too fluid for me, and there just hasn't been enough production in his career. And I was right about it last year when I called him a do not draft guy, with the exception of that late run, which I'm sure most people who had Cam Akers late season picked him up off the waiver wire. The people who drafted him did not get him in that championship run. This team has a chance to be absolutely abysmal this year. What the Rams are, if you look at their roster, they're about 3 guys away from being a complete disaster this year. They've got 3 guys that we really know of at this point. Jalen Ramsey's gone. He's already gone. They've got Cooper Kupp, they've got Aaron Donald, and they've got Matt Stafford. 1 or 2 of those guys goes down, this team is not in good shape. And this team has the number 31 offensive line heading into 2023. Absolutely rock bottom abysmal. When you're looking at the guys in this range, you're seeing James Cook on a much better team with much better offensive line. You're seeing Alexander Mattison, much better team, much better offensive line. This one just isn't particularly that close for me. Now, moving on to number 7, I've got Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round of drafts this year. This was also a very tough one, guys, because I have Isaiah Pacheco in about 19% of my underdog entry drafts this year. So I am definitely in on taking Isaiah Pacheco, specifically in an underdog league, when I don't have to make that start-sit decision. But when I'm looking at him in ESPN, there are definitely several question mark guys in this range. I mean, you've got guys like Dalvin Cook, you've got Javonte Williams, you've got DeAndre Swift. All those guys absolutely come with their own questions. I'm not really big on Dalvin Cook, to be honest with you. There's no doubt, though, that he's going to have early season upside. And I'm honestly not that big on DeAndre Swift either. If you're asking me the Eagles running back I'm taking the shot on, I'm taking the shot on Rashad Penny, who's a later round guy. And this offense still doesn't know what they're doing as far as who's starting. But like I said earlier, Dalvin Cook definitely has the early season upside, and DeAndre Swift is just more athletic. So when we look at it objectively, I'm going to be choosing Isaiah Pacheco as the worst guy. But to be honest with you, the margin is so small between those three guys specifically, and it would not bother me at all if you guys went ahead and picked Isaiah Pacheco over both of those guys. In round 8, there's really not much going on in ESPN drafts. You've got J.K. Dobbins really ranked in here as in the middle of round 8, basically. And I don't really think he's a bad pick, to be honest with you. I'll be honest with you guys right now. His trajectory is pointing up. He's returned to practice this offseason over the last couple of days and is practicing with his team more. I think he's got his best year in store ahead of him. I do not think this is a bad pick. I just wanted to highlight that there are not many 8th round running backs on ESPN. In round 9, I've got Brian Robinson of the Washington Commanders, man. So when you're looking at the list right now of running backs available in this range, you've either got Khalil Herbert or Brian Robinson. Honestly, to me, I've never been big on Brian Robinson personally. Even dating back to his college days, he's never really been that efficient of a guy. And that's a really bad combination to place with the number 30 offensive line heading into 2023. Simply just not a good combination for a guy who's already not that efficient coming into an offense with a bad offensive line. I'll take my chances elsewhere. Antonio Gibson as well looks like he's going to be the receiving back. So Brian Robinson is probably not going to have many receiving opportunities to help salvage a week when he runs for 10 carries and 19 yards. I'd personally much rather go Khalil Herbert in this range, and I know it sounds weird, but I think Chicago's offense is definitely going to be more explosive than Washington's this year. And if you were looking for the best tips and tricks for you to win your particular 2023 fantasy football league, click on this video right here.